And here we are, brothers. We are live, and it's an absolute pleasure tonight. And we actually had to move the time back just a tad because Dr. Zed, who's our guest and is one of the resident coaches here at Saving Brothers, well, he's a busy man, and so we had to work in with his schedule. Scott, Dr. Zed, welcome to Saving Brothers. How are you, brother?
Thank you, Phil. Yes, I'm very, very well, thank you. I'm really getting into the swing of things over here, but yeah, thank you for inviting me to have a chat to your community of Saving Brothers. It's a great opportunity to chat with them, chat with you, and help this community in the way that you want to reach out to them.
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. I think the thing, as we were just chatting off air for a few minutes, and I said to you, look, the wellness app's probably 2 weeks away. We talked about that, we had a meeting with all the meeting of the minds earlier this week about bringing that out live, which is exciting. And we've got a number of initiatives. And as you are one of our resident coaches, and as I said, look, I'll definitely be encouraging you to make some more posts and go into the Facebook group and let men know what you're all about. But the thing that I'm excited about is to learn more about what you're doing. You are AKA a transformologist, Dr. Zed. And so tonight was just really, I call it a bit of a fireside chat, just for us to learn more about how you feel you can make a contribution in Saving Brothers and really basically helping men around the world. So I was going to suggest, why don't we just dive straight into this topic, and I might just start and ask you a question that I came up with, which, looking at your bio on your LinkedIn profile, the breakthrough solution, you're the creator of the breakthrough solution. So I wanted to ask you, what is that? And what do you think is a transformologist from your perspective?
Okay, well, thank you, Phil. Look, the breakthrough solution, we'll get straight into that, is a very, very simple 3-step solution that I came up with a number of years ago because I believe life should be as simple as possible. I mean, as Einstein said, simplify but don't make simple. That's why he came up with that beautiful equation, E = mc squared. So I'm a big believer in keeping things as simple as possible because I had to just cluttered with so much information at the moment. And I think that, do this, don't do this, do that, don't wear this, don't eat this, eat that, don't have it, be happy. My goodness, why aren't you happy? And I think I think the issue is we've got too much stuff in our head. And we're always thinking, we're always feeling guilty, especially as parents. If there's a number of your community are parents, is like, oh, my kid's happy. Are they in the right school? Or there's so many things that are just sort of overwhelming, really, to putting pressure on us. And I've felt that pressure myself. I have all the, I have all the pressures of being a parent, of all the pressures of, running a business. Well, I run 2 businesses. So I just thinking, how can I make things as simple as possible and not get as overwhelmed? And so I spent a lot of time thinking about it. And I've written a lot of books on self-help, personal growth, mindset books, growth mindset, high performance mindset. I've also read hundreds of these types of books as well, listened to numerous podcasts. And essentially everyone is saying the same thing at the end of the day, because I really analyzed. I didn't read what they said as much as how they said it as well. So, and what I gathered is there's 3 main things that all these personal self-help, personal growth books talk about. And they are, who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? And how do you do it? And any self-help book sort of centers around those 4 things. So who are you, or who do you want to be? What do you do, or what do you want to do? Why do you do it? Which is very, very important thing, your purpose. And the other thing is how are you going to do it? And so I created what I call the breakthrough solution, because it's a breakthrough in breaking through your barriers, essentially. The barriers stopping you being effective, the barriers stopping you being a success, the barriers stopping you living a fulfilled life. And so essentially these three things help you answer those questions of who are you, what do you do, why do you do it, and how do you do it. And the three things are: define who you are, determine what you want, and design how to do it. So I call these the three rules of the game of life. Now, in any game that you play, whether it's tennis, there are rules on the game of tennis. So, the size of the racket, the size of the ball, the height of the net, the width of the court, the scoring system. There are rules to play. Well, there are also rules in life in general. Like, you've got the law of gravity. You've got the Newton's laws, three of thermodynamics. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. There are all these rules of the universe that allow us to live and play in this universe. Well, that's why I call it the breakthrough solution are the three rules of the game of life. Because if you know these three rules, define who you are, determine what you want, and design how to do it, your life has got, you will get clarity, you'll find direction, and then you'll develop confidence to move in that direction. Now, there is a silent fourth rule, actually, which is you've got to do it. You can't just, define who you are, determine what you want, and design how to, and then just sit back and just go, okay. No, you've actually got to put the work in. But these three rules actually develop a framework from which you can create a wonderful life. And so that's why I call it the breakthrough solution.
And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's all very well we do these things, we carry it out in our minds and create a roadmap, but you must take action.
Oh.
And seek feedback with the actions that you take. You talked about barriers. Are you referring more to self-imposed barriers that we create?
Yeah, I think all barriers are self-imposed at some level. One of my favorite quotes is from my favorite guru, Bruce Lee, who said, "There are no limits in life, only plateaus, and you must not stay there. You must go beyond them." And we create. We create limits ourselves, and the way we create limits ourselves are in our mind, the way we think. And I'm a big believer in what stands between you and your true potential is the way you think. Now, let's just put this in perspective, and I'll give an analogy here of the flea circus. And actually, it's quite fortuitous because I'm writing a book right now. I've almost finished it, and I'm going to call it The Flea Circus. Because it's about the self-imposed limits that we put on ourselves and how we can break through those limits and ascend and become the person that we're capable of being. And anyway, so what a flea, I don't know if you know what a flea circus is, but 120 years ago, when circuses would tour around the country, especially in Europe and America, and even here in Australia, there used to be little side-ons to the circus, and one of them used to be a man who'd carry around a little sort of trunk which he would open up, and inside would be a little miniature circus, and in them would be fleas. But what he had done, and they would ride on roller coasters, and they would tag along little carts and things like this, and it was just a little miniature, and you'd pay money to have a look at this flea circus. But what he had done, what the flea circus, what the flea trainer would do, is he would train the fleas to only jump so high, 2 or 3 inches. Now, a flea has the capacity to jump 48 times its own height. So if you can imagine sort of feel yourself jumping over the tallest building in Melbourne there. That's kind of the equivalent of what a flea can naturally do. They have this ability, in the whole animal insect world, they have the greatest ability to jump. But a flea trainer can actually train them to jump only so high. Now, how do they do this? How do you train a flea? So Well, what they do, what the flea trainer does is he gets his fleas, and just imagine I've got a glass in my hand. He puts a glass on top of the flea. So when the flea jumps, it keeps hitting the bottom of the glass, which is the ceiling. And once it does this thousands and thousands and thousands of times, it gets used to only jumping so high. So that when the flea trainer removes the glass or the cup, the flea only jumps so high. And this is a great analogy for what we do ourselves. We train ourselves to only jump so high. So we have to retrain ourselves. We have to retrain to our actually maximum capabilities, because what we do, we severely underestimate our own capabilities. We limit ourselves. We condition ourselves to thinking we can only do so much. And that's what the breakthrough solution is all about. It's deconditioning or reconditioning you. It's setting different limits. In fact, it's removing that cup so that you can start jumping as high as you possibly can and just seeing how far you can go, because that's what life is about. It's about enjoying what we've got. It's about expressing ourselves to our fullest, not to our most limited or conditioned things. Yeah, so that's what I'm about.
And I like that analogy, and I have actually heard that one before. It's similar to the one with the baby elephant with the stake in the ground, and it's trying to pull the stake out of the ground. In the end, they put a very, very small stake, and it feels that it can't go any further. So, yeah, I think it's a great analogy. I'd love you to share with us, what are the steps to getting clarity and direction in our lives?
Well, it all comes back to the breakthrough solution and what the breakthrough solution is designed to do. And that is to know who you are, define what you want to do, work out why you want to do it, and then work out how you want to do it. So once you've got clarity on who you are, what you do, why you do it, and how you do it, then you're going to get amazing clarity. Now, let me put this, let me give you another analogy. Well, I'm a Trekkie by nature. Okay, I love Star Trek. So if we were to, somehow call up Captain Kirk on the USS Enterprise and say, Captain, who are you? He wouldn't say, I'm the captain of the USS Enterprise. He would say, I'm a hero. Because that's how he sees himself. He sees himself as a hero. So that's the who. And then you go, all right, well, so what do you do? What do you do, Captain Kirk? He says, well, I save humans and aliens from disaster. We go, okay, so that's what you do. Well, why do you do it? Well, to make the universe and the galaxy a safer place. That's why. Well, how do you do it, Captain Kirk? Well, I boldly go where no one has gone before. So it's who are you, what do you do, why do you do it, and how do you do it? And if you've got absolute clarity on that, you will have great clarity in life, and you, as I said, you will have great direction in life too, because that will set your direction, and will also build the confidence. Now, you mentioned the word transformologist earlier Now, I came up with that name. I came up with that title. And now, in my previous life, I was a doctor. I was a pediatrician. While I was training to be a consultant pediatrician. And I left medicine 20 years ago. I left on the 2nd of the 2nd, 2000. So any of your listeners are doing some numerology there. There's some powerful numerology in that one. But I left medicine because I'd always wanted to be a writer. I mean, that's who I am in my heart. But I also do more than that. And I'm a coach. I'm a publisher. I'm a public speaker. I'm a mentor. So I do many things. So I was at a barbecue maybe a couple of years ago, and someone came up to me. I hadn't met them before. So it's just polite chat. And so what do you do? And I literally just scratched my head and said, well, have you got an hour? I do so much. And at that moment, I thought, you know what? I wish I could say I was a policeman or a teacher or something, because then this person would have an immediate impression of what I did. I wouldn't have to say anything. I'm a policeman. Okay, everyone knows what a policeman does, or a teacher. But I didn't have that. So it kind of it concerned me. I thought, geez, all right, well, what do I want to do? So I sat down for a while and I thought, well, what do I do? I do all these things, and I tried to put an umbrella term over everything. And I thought, well, what's my game? And my game is transformation. I help you get from where you are now to where you want to be. That's transformative. And I thought, well, transformation. All right, let's play with this word. And you know, being a doctor, a lot of my friends are gastroenterologists, neurologists, hematologists, cardiologists. So I thought, you know what? I want an ologist. So I invented the word transformologist. Because that is basically that's the nature and study of human transformation.
Yep.
So that's what transformology is.
Yep.
And I created this. That's what I have. So if you haven't heard of it, don't worry. It's because I'm out there trying to market this now. So who am I? Well, I'm a transformologist. So that's the who. Well, what do I do? Well, I help aspirational people break through their barriers so that they become the person they can become, or the person they're capable of being, should I say. All right, so that's the what. And the why in there is that so that they can become the person they're capable of being. That's the why. And how do I do it? Well, I help lift the mind fog so that you've got clarity of the direction that you want to take. And I help you give the confidence to walk that path, because you may well see that path ahead of you, but if you don't have the confidence to put the steps ahead to walk down it, you're not going to walk down it. So I also give you the confidence to walk in the direction that you've seen. So that's the who, the what, the why, and the how. So when you've got that, you've got clarity.
And would it be fair to say then, on the basis of those things, those three things plus the fourth, which is to take action, then they are the keys to helping you to succeed and to be happier?
Oh, yeah. Look, as I said, I've read hundreds of self-help books. Getting down, I've basically got it down to that nutshell of who are you, what do you do, why do you do it, and how do you do it. Any self-help book you now read, you will see some of that, if not all of them, embedded in there. And it's getting clarity of that. Now, if you see, look, the opposite is that you don't know who you want to be, you don't know what you want to do, you don't know why you're doing it, and then therefore you don't know how you want to do it. So if you don't know who you want to be, you'll just end up doing anything. You're going around and around in circles. You'll feel stuck, and you'll have that sense of, yeah, that's not who I want to be. And then the what? Well, what do you want to do? Well, all you'll end up doing is chasing any job that can pay the rent, or anything that falls in your way, because you'll have no identity with who you want to do. So, and then 20 years later, you'll go, well, I'm doing all this work, but it's not exactly what I want to do. And the why? Well, you'll struggle to get up in the morning and go to work, because you go, well, what's the purpose? Well, why am I even doing this? And that's the opposite of not having clarity of who you want to be and what you want to do. It actually all starts with who. It actually all starts with who do you want to be. Now, Michelangelo, when he created, or he carved David, which is now in the museum in Florence, is his famous statue of David. Before he even created David, he went looking for a big slab of marble that could accommodate his grand vision. But actually, he didn't look for just any slab of marble. He went to the quarries and he investigated, and he looked at each individual marbles. And what he said is, I saw the angel in the marble, and then I just released him from there.
He cleared away the pieces.
He cleared away the pieces. That wasn't David. You see, he chipped away everything around him that wasn't David, and David was revealed. You see, he didn't just go chipping away at anything. He saw David in there, and then just chipped away and revealed David there. And that is what these 4 questions do. Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? How do you do it? They chip away at all the things that are not you so that you can reveal your true self. And it's when you reveal that true angel within you, within the marble, that you can start living a happier, more fulfilled, more contented life.
And I think you're right on the money with that, Scott, because I think for men, the midlife crisis, the anxiety, depression is because we're not actualizing who our potential is, or who we in our hearts know we really should become, want to become, or perhaps didn't have the opportunity or the courage or the tools of how to become. And that's where the beauty of working with you is you're going to help people with a roadmap to transform into the butterfly that they ultimately should and want to be, and really free them from the change of themselves, which is, I think, often, and I speak from authority because I've been that person. I did things in my career because I had to put food on the table. My kids were in grammar school, so there was expectation of making a certain amount of money. But I often felt like the tsunami of the tidal wave of pressure, which was pressure that I created in here, but also financial pressure to continue to keep up. So that's great. And I think that's going to lead me to my next question, time management. Because time management, I think, is another thing that when you get it right, it frees you up in here as well. What are some of the ways that we can all manage our time better?
Well, there are numerous ways. Look, time is your most important asset. Okay, time is more important than money. And why is that? Well, because you can always bank more money, but you can't bank more time. Time is a depreciating asset, and we all know depreciating assets actually increase in value as you go on. So look, as they say, look, don't spend time to save money. Spend money to save time. And so it's so important that you actually get your mindset right about time right off the bat. Because if you value money over time straight off, well, you're going to waste time. You're going to kill time. You're going to not appreciate time. And as I said, time is your most valuable asset. So you need to treat it as such. So there are many tools, many books out there. But I use an acronym of time that just to help people, and I think it's part of my course anyway. That's going to be part of the Saving Brothers platform. But I'll tell you here. But in the course, there's a few little workshoppy things that you can do to help. But I'll just quickly mention it. And it's time. It's TIME. Now, T stands for a time audit. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever done a time audit, but it's basically writing down every half an hour where your time has gone. Now, obviously, between midnight and 6 or whatever in the morning, you're going to be sleeping mostly anyway. But for the other hours, it's, write what you do. And you will be surprised that if you do this over the course of a couple of days, so it's not just 24 hours, you can do it over 48, 72 hours. You will be surprised at the pockets of time that what I call time stealers or time wasters, where you're actually just doing nothing. You're not even relaxing. You're just wasting it. I mean, I don't call relaxation a time waster at all, because you need to rejuvenate your energy. You need to restore yourself. You need to find that peace of mind. I mean, I myself spend half an hour every morning meditating, simply because it centers who I am, and then it's from working from that center that you can then go out into the day with a lot less sort of anger or frustration, because you're coming from that center of peace. So even rest is not a waste. But when you do a time audit, you will find that there are times that where you're just clicking through the emails, or you're just gaming, or you're just on watching the TV. You're probably watching footy, and it's not even the teams that you even support. It's not such a bad thing. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying this will highlight where your time is going, so that you can identify what you determine is a time waster or a time stealer. So that's the first thing. The I is what I call itemize the day. So one of the best practices of successful and effective people actually is either the night before or in the morning is to actually make a list of the top 6 things that they need to get done during that day. And then, and this is actually the most important bit, is they prioritize the importance of it. So they number each thing. The first thing you write might not be the most important. It might be the 3rd thing. So that goes number 1. And then the top thing might be number 2. And then you go there. And then what you do is that you just, you complete that task before you move to number 2. And then you complete number 2 before you get to number 3. So what happens a lot of the time is that we get distracted. And so we don't complete task number 1. We then move on to task number 2. And then, so task number 1 is actually half completed. And then we go, oh my goodness. And then we rush back to doing task number 1 again. And that is a time waster. We're not efficient. So that's itemized day. M is kind of linked to that. It's what's your most important task first. Identifying. And I've got a little, what I call the 4D matrix that you can identify. It's about what's urgent and what's important, and you put it into the matrix, and it's part of the course, so you can identify your most important thing. And look, sometimes things just come up and they're urgent and super important, and you just got to do it. Okay, these things happen, but over the day, we can identify what's the order of importance, and then do that important thing first. Brian Tracy wrote a fantastic book called Eat That Frog, and it's about procrastination, and it's about being more productive and effective. And he says the first thing you've got to do in the morning is eat that frog. And what is that frog? Well, it is the most horrible task that you just do not want to do. But if you do it and you get it over and done with, you can go through the rest of the day knowing, with that self-satisfaction of knowing that the worst is over. So that, for your listeners, Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy is a great book.
He's a cracker, Brian Tracy. I was lucky enough to see him live speak at one of the sales conferences I attended.
Yeah, I'd love to. And I mean, unfortunately, Zig Ziglar has passed on, but he's another one of my favorite motivational speakers and people that I love to quote.
I love Zig. Sorry to interrupt you. I also saw Zig live as well at Melbourne Town Hall. I was a junkie in my 20s and 30s. Saw a lot of the greats live. Jim Rohn. I saw Jim Rohn live as well.
Yeah. He's still going. He's written some great books too.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, well, he was Tony Robbins' mentor. In fact, Tony Robbins used to sell Jim Rohn's programs.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, no, I didn't know that. Yeah. Well, Tony Robbins.
I wanted to ask you. Sorry to interrupt, Scott. I wanted to ask you, how can I make sure I'm on the right path?
Well, I get asked that all the time. It's a great question. It's in fact not just a great question. It's actually an essential question, and it's an essential question I actually ask myself every single day: is, am I on the right task? Am I doing what I should be doing? Am I living my life of purpose here? Because it's easy to go off track, and I've slipped off track in my past, and then I've had to get back on track again. But one of the great ways to keep on track and keep in the direction you want to go in is to ask yourself, what's my thing? Like THING. What's my thing? Now, in my book, it's up to you why I'm mentioning this, because I go into great depth about it, because it's such an important question. I actually speak a lot about it, write a lot about it. But what's your thing? Your T is your talent. What's your talent? What's the talent you were born with? So you've got to go right back to your childhood and go, well, what was I really good at that I didn't really have to try? really hard. I just couldn't do it. We're all born with a personality, and that personality is molded through our experiences and lifetime. But a baby, you ask any mother out there, they know their baby has a distinct personality the moment it comes out. And so it's like a talent. That baby has a talent. You had a talent. You have a talent. All your readers and all your listeners have a talent. So what is your talent? Well, my talent was storytelling. I was always the kid at school telling all the jokes, telling stories there. I kind of suppressed it. I didn't go with it. I did well enough at high school to be invited into medical school, so I went that way. And we all know in the science field it just squashes creativity, but that's for a reason. I mean, you have to think a certain way when you're in this field. But thinking creatively is not necessarily part of that. But so I was a storyteller. So that was my talent that I was born with. I wasn't quite born with the gift of the gab like the Irish, but I could tell a story and I could make people laugh. And so I used that. I found that when I think about what is my talent, that's my number one talent. We can all have multiple talents too. It's not just one. You could have more. So your H in your thing, your TH, is your heart, which is basically your passion. What is your passion? What really gets your heart racing? What really gets you motivated? What really gets you enthusiastic about it? And for me, it's writing. It's writing stories. And I talk about surfing. Now, I think I saw a statistic, something like 85 to 90% of Australia population lives within 5 kilometers of the coast. And so whenever you drive past the coast, normally where there's a coast where there's waves, you always see in the background, whether it's winter or spring or summer, you'll always see bobbing in the background a surfer or two out there ready to catch a wave. And what you'll see them watching the wave or watching it approach from the ocean, and then they'll see the rise, and then they'll turn around, they'll get on their belly, and then they'll start paddling, and then they'll get on their legs, and then they'll ride that wave, and then they'll crash or they'll jump off, and then they'll paddle out for another one. Now, the whole time, from the time they start paddling to the time they actually catch that wave, is probably about 15 to 20 seconds, maybe. Okay, that's a pretty good ride. When I'm writing, I can sit down for 10 hours at a time and ride that wave for 10 hours. And I am there, and that is where my passion is. And I'm in that zone. So what is that zone that you love? What is that thing that really gets you motivated? Again, you might have to go right back to your childhood, because you might have, you talked about being a father, being pressured to, be the breadwinner a lot of times. But even women nowadays are breadwinners as well. So it's not just men now. So you might push that passion to a side because it doesn't become high importance to you anymore. What becomes high importance is putting food on the table and putting a roof over someone's head. So you might have to go back and think, well, when I was a kid, yeah, I love to do this, or I love to do that, or I was told I was really good at this. So that's your heart, your passion. Your I is what I call your imagination, which is your superpower. When I give my presentations, I talk a lot about imagination because your imagination is essentially what separates you as a human being from the animal kingdom. Animals don't have imagination. They don't have they have awareness, of course. They have awareness of things. They have awareness of their environment, but they don't have the awareness that they're aware. They don't have the awareness, I'm aware of being aware. And that's what we have. We as humans have that awareness. And so part of that awareness is our imagination. And this is what you can imagine. I mean, Disney says what you can imagine, you can create. What you can, if you can dream it, you can live it. And so that is what's really, really powerful. So for me, my imagination is embedded in my storytelling in my book. So I don't just write non-fiction books. I also write fiction as well. So, but even non-fiction, you have to be imaginative in how you get across the message that you want to do. And a lot of that is storytelling. As they say, show, don't tell. And as you know, with a lot of the blogs you're doing and a lot of the video blogs that you're producing as well. A lot of it's stories, so you've got to be imaginative about that, because we as human beings, we love stories. So, but that's imagination. But what are you good at imagining? Other people imagine other things. Other people are more technical imagination. Other people are more emotional imagination. A lot of people are even more physically imaginative. So where does that fit for you? Or even spiritually imaginative too. So just understand what your I is in your THI, imagination. Your N is your natural personality. Now, as I said before, everyone is born with a personality. Okay, but what is your natural personality? I mean, are you an extrovert? Are you an introvert? Are you somewhere in the spectrum in between, maybe? Now, I am more naturally introverted. I mean, I love nothing more than to sit down for 10 hours and write. But for some people, that would be a definition of hell for these people, because they want to be out and about. They want to be mixing with people. They want to be in a team. They want to do things with other people. So what is your natural personality? Where does that lead you? And your G, in your THING, is basically your general experience. So as you get older, as you go through life, as you go through many experiences, this will build to when you ask yourself, what's my thing? Because if you ask it when you're 40 and when you ask it when you're 50, it'll be slightly different, because your general experience has changed over that time. So this is why your thing is constantly changing as well. But it is all keeping you like a compass point, directing you in the direction you want to go. So what's my general experience? Well, as I said, I do a lot of things. But it all falls under the umbrella of transformation. My passion now, well, not now, but part of my passion is helping people become the people that they're capable of being. Because I believe if every single person on this planet could become the person that they were born to be, this planet would be an amazing place to live in. And so I'm doing my little bit to help people rise or transform into that. So that's your thing. Ask yourself, what's my thing? My talent, my heart, my imagination, my natural personality, and my general experience. And that will get you from, oh my goodness, I've got no direction, and it will really narrow it down to there.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It all comes back to that real clarity. What should I avoid if I want to be more effective and productive? What do you think?
Fear.
False evidence appearing real. Zig Ziglar.
Yeah, look, again, fear is probably the number one cause of procrastination, and procrastination is a major cause of being ineffective. Look, I personally procrastinated for 15 years. I told everyone since high school I was going to write a book, but I didn't do it. It didn't happen. I had all these excuses why I didn't. I got into university, told everyone I was going to write a book, but instead I started studying microbiology, hematology, cardiology, pulmonology, all these things. And I'll tell you, while I was doing that at university and medical school, I was telling everyone I was going to write a book. It didn't happen. And 6 years passed. Well, actually 8 years passed, because I took a year off, and then I failed a year, actually. So it took me 8 years to get through medical school. And then by the time that I had actually passed, I did my internship in Sydney, actually, in St. George Hospital in Cogra. So I packed up my bags from Adelaide and flew to Sydney, landed, went to the hospital, did my internship, and told everyone I'm going to write a book one day. I'm going to write a book, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen because I was working 80 hours a week. And in those 80 hours I wasn't working, I was going out, because Sydney's a party town, and I was making the most of my time there, and also travel. I wanted to travel, so I was traveling the world. And then a few more years passed. I went to London for a 6-week holiday and stayed for 10 years. And I got into the Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health. Got invited to start studying pediatrics, children's health, and started learning more about, childhood health and all these sorts of things, and telling everyone, yeah, I'm going to write a book one day. I'm going to write a book. And by then, I think everyone wanted to murder me every time I said no. But I said all I couldn't, because now I'm studying again. Because when you're studying for consultancy, you're working and you're studying, and I wanted to travel. So before I knew it, 15 years had passed from the very first time that I knew in my mind I wanted to be like my famous, or my most favorite authors, Stephen King and Wilbur Smith, and a bit later Paulo Coelho. And 15 years had passed, and I hadn't put one word down at all. And then things happened, and I came to realize that I was nearly 30 by this age. But from that period, from the age of 15 in high school to being 30, half my life I had spent procrastinating, and it all came down to a fear of failure. At the end of the day, it was a fear of rejection. It was a fear of not being good enough. That stopped me every single time. Or what if my books aren't good enough? Or what if no one wants to read them? Or what if I can't get published? Or what? So what does the mind do? It says, well, if I don't write it, well, then I'm not going to get rejected. If I don't write it, I'm not going to fail, am I? But then you're not going to...
Sorry to interrupt, Scott. I think that's a very, very common thing, that we steal our dreams away from ourselves because of that whole fear. And as I said, what Zig Ziglar had created, that acronym of false evidence appearing real. We make it real in our hearts and our minds, and we tell ourselves and we convince ourselves why it shouldn't work or why it won't work. So you went really, I think, from, if I can use the word ologist, you went from being an excuseologist to a transformologist, if I can say.
I'm going to use that now. Thank you for that. I was a master. I was actually the professor of procrastination. I
think a lot of us were in that class with you, I can assure you. What would you say, Scott, are the benefits of having a transformational coach / mentor?
Well, what's the benefit of becoming the person you want to become? What is the benefit to you, or the value to you of actually doing what you really want to do in life? What is the value in actually living that life that you want to live, and how you want to live it? I mean, that's the benefit of having a transformational coach, is that we can help you get there. Now, I always say, look, reach for the stars, go for the stars, aim for the stars. You might not get there, but you might make the moon. And so that in itself is a transformation, because you've gotten from the earth to the moon. And that's what I'm saying. I make no promises to people, but what I will promise is that I will help you find direction, and I will help you get clarity, and I will help you at least start that journey on where you can find your peace and your happiness through being the person that you are meant to be, through doing the things that you are meant to be doing.
And I think really, if we can look at that fellow in the mirror and know that we're actually being true to that person that looks back at us, and for me, quite frankly, I've gone through a transformation of, and I was interviewed earlier today by a fellow writing a men's book, and I said, and he asked me a particular question. I said, what I've got to the point at my stage in life at 54 is I now start to like myself. I'm comfortable with who I am, because Saving Brothers is my baby. It's my dream. And I understand that whole excuse-itis or procrastination, because it probably took me 3 years of thinking that I wanted to create something and having people knock me down and Phil, oh, what right have you got to? I mean, who are you? And I thought, in the end, stuff it. I need to do what I can to create a legacy, and I am living out my dream, and I'm doing whatever I can to serve and to help men. And if I can look at that fellow in the mirror each day, then I can be content. And I think that's probably the most important thing in terms of transformation, Scott, of the work that you can do. I'm going to ask you about tips, tricks, tools. is there one thing that I could use right now, or our brothers could use right now, that would help them instantly?
Yes. Let me just answer that in just 1 minute. But I want to get back to what you said about liking yourself. Now, Frances Scovel Shinn, she wrote a book 100 years ago called The Game of Life and How to Play It. And she said that the start to happiness and success is to be glad you are yourself. The start to success and happiness is to be glad you are yourself. It's to be happy in your own skin, essentially. It's to like yourself, love yourself. It all starts with that. As I said right at the beginning of this interview, it all starts with you. Who are you? Well, you also have to love that, who you are. You have to like that, because that's where it all starts. Because if you don't like yourself, you're not gonna ask, who am I? You're gonna avoid who you are. Now, the problem with that is wherever you go with you. Your baggage comes. You cannot run away from yourself at the end of the day. But we will try. Some of us turn to spirits, alcohol, drugs, relationships, work. We become addicted to these external things to avoid looking at ourselves in the mirror, because we try to create an image of what we want to like rather than identifying and liking who we actually are in the first place. So the first start to success and happiness is to be glad you are you. And that, I think, is monumental, because a lot of people just do not like who they are. So you've got to work on liking yourself. You have to become your best friend, essentially. At the end of the day, you have to live with yourself.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking as you were saying that, Scott. I thought, yes, I agree. You've got to, you live with yourself 24 hours a day. So you might as well get to like that person and form a relationship with that person, as weird as that might sound, but it's true. Because we're constantly, as you know, we're all got our own self-talk. And I love the analogy Brian Tracy talks about. He says, if you don't like your movie of how you see the world, you are not on autopilot. You are the director of your movie. So change the script, rewrite the script, transform, as you would say.
Yeah. And you can rewrite your script. I mean, I rewrote my script. I was on the path to pediatrics and a lifetime of medicine, but it wasn't working for me. So I had to rewrite my script and, become a transformologist. There's a great analogy that I love to use, and about liking yourself. Okay, I think that's the one thing that people can do instantly and get instant rewards from that, is actually to say, I like myself, and really mean it, and actually go, you know what, I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm glad I'm happy in my own skin. And one way to be happy in your own skin is this analogy. One of the things I do is, in part of my transformology, is I also book coach. I help entrepreneurs, business owners like yourself, who want to write an authority book, so they become an authority in their, or an expert in their field. It's part of, I consider it part of my umbrella of transformation. Now, I was with a client a couple of months ago, and she brought up, for some reason, I can't remember what it was, discussed one of her clients, how a lot of her clients don't like themselves. And she's in the nutrition and naturopathy game, where a lot of clients come with a lot of illnesses. And so therefore they naturally don't like their illness, obviously. But it really affects who they are on the inside, and they end up not liking themselves as well as the illness. And she used the analogy of a photo mosaic. And I don't know if you've ever seen an Elvis photo mosaic, where there's a big mosaic of Elvis, and every little pixel or dot is a different picture of Elvis in his lifetime. So the little dots, the little pictures, make up a huge picture of Elvis. And I thought about that for myself, and I thought, you know what? I mean, what does my photo mosaic look like? And so I had to look about all the way back to my childhood to where I am right now, and all the little pictures, like a movie, but all the little pictures that make up this mosaic. And what I realized I was doing is that I only like bits and pieces of that mosaic. I only like the good things. And I tried to take away all the bad things I didn't like about myself, all the things that happened to me, or all the bad things that I might have done to other people, all the bad things that I've said or done, or not to the best of my ability. All this, so I ignored them. But what I realized is that those things that we don't like about ourselves, they make up the whole part of our photo mosaic. They make up a whole. We have to like them all, because we have to like the picture. And if we don't like the picture, it's because there's holes and gaps in it that we've tried to throw away. But you can't do that. So you must also like the good and the bad part of your photo mosaic. And once you really do that, you'll actually start to say, well, actually, that picture, it looks okay. I'm happy with the picture. And so you can step back from it, and you don't have to necessarily get too emotional about the not so good things. And you can actually say, without them, I'm not complete without those moments. I'm not complete, so I have to like them all. And now that's what I do. I'm really happy with that photo mosaic, whereas a time where I wasn't happy with that photo mosaic, and now that I am, and I've learned to like the things, or accept the things at least, that I tried to ignore or suppress in the past. So that, I think, can really help a lot of people, because we all do it. There are things about ourselves we don't want to face, but if you look at it as a bigger picture of who you are and part of your journey, part of your photo mosaic, you can actually start to accept that. And once you start accepting that, you can actually start liking it. And once you start liking it, your life is going to change. You're going to transform.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's beautifully said. To conclude our conversation, and I think both of us, we could talk like this for hours, quite frankly. What do you hope to bring to Saving Brothers? What would be the ideal, Scott, in terms of what you'd like to see happen, in terms of how you can help our brothers at Saving Brothers?
Many things, but I like what you've created, your health, wealth, and self, 3 aspects of Saving Brothers. Now, I'm not I am a bit of a health expert, but that's not where my focus is. So I'm certainly no wealth expert, but I am a self expert. And what I can bring to Saving Brothers is to help people just do exactly what we just discussed just a minute ago, is to get to like themselves better, get to know themselves better, get to like themselves, and therefore transform into the person that they're capable of being. Because if every one of your members, and you're getting up into the thousands now, if every one of those could become the person they're capable of being, how amazing would that be for them, not just for them, but for Saving Brothers, just to say we created this community in which people entered into their membership with your Saving Brothers, and then work their way through, and they've become a different person, a better person, a more improved version, a better version of who they are. Well, essentially, it's becoming their real self at the end of the day. And if Saving Brothers can do that, and if I can help Saving Brothers do that, well, that's just fantastic.
Yeah, Scott, absolutely. You're preaching to the converted. It is. One of the biggest goals for Saving Brothers is to help men discover and to self-actualize, become the best version of themselves, to like themselves and to become aware, self-awareness. And it's actually number 1 on our Keep 5 Alive, there's my hand, which is actually, how do you feel about you today? It's thinking about who you are. And part of your big 3 that you talked about before, but the number 4 is so important, which is once you've got that blueprint, which you can help men with, is then to take action. And I think also just to know that you're not necessarily, it's a journey. You're not going to get it right from day one. It's about taking corrective action. And as you say, coming back on purpose and understanding that this is something that is evolving. You've been in a certain way perhaps for a number of years, and for you to be the best version of yourself is going to take some work. And it is work, but it's wonderful work, because at the end of the tunnel is that shining light of, hey, you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I've transformed. I am now the person I really had hoped and wanted to become. And you're absolutely spot on. By the work you can do to help men become the best version of themselves, surely we're actually doing some wonderful things. And I think men will like themselves more and be happier, calmer, less anxiety, less disease, because they won't have internal struggles and creating dis-ease. So, Scott, absolute pleasure to catch up with you. I'm sure we'll be doing more of this in the future. Guys, reach out. Scott's on the platform and is available. Would love to be able to work with you guys. And just really appreciate your time this evening. I know it's, what is it now? It's just about just coming up to 8 o'clock for you and almost 8:30 for us here. So, again, Scott, keep 5 alive and absolutely take care of yourself, and appreciate your time as always.
Wonderful. It's been a pleasure. It's been great. Thank you again, Phil.
Good as gold. Thanks again, Scott.